Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. I'm purposely hitting the start button on this about 20 seconds or so before the open of the market, just so that I have a chance to, for those of a few people that have joined me live this morning, so I can have a chance to say, brace yourself, be ready. Not that you needed me to say that necessarily. It is going to be a wild and wicked start to this market, which there's the opening. There comes the opening bell right there, right out of the gate, the opening bell, and right out of the gate, a handful of stocks. Broadly, like all the stocks in the NASDAQ, especially, but in the Dow as well, getting hit hard right out of the gate. Futures, as you can see right here on your screen, very, very ugly, especially for the NASDAQ. 3%. Yeah, I make mention of this once in a while. I talk about this on occasions, how 1% move used to seem like in a single day, in one trading day, a 1% move used to seem like this massive, massive thing. Like you almost couldn't believe that one of the indexes, and it wasn't such a huge thing for individual stocks, but you almost couldn't believe that one of the indexes could move as much as an entire percent in one day. And now it just sadly it's kind of commonplace for a movement of 1% in a day, but 3% before the market even opens in pre-market. And I know this will take a minute to refresh, but we'll get where we're actually at. Not nearly, not that it won't go that deep, but not nearly as bad right out of the gate as what futures were pointing to. Futures were pointing to an open 950 points down on the NASDAQ, and it's certainly not looking that bad. But a few notable things: AMD down over $40 a share, down 7%. Applied Digital down almost $3, which is 6.5%. Nvidia down $7.5, which is 3.5%. These are big moves. These are big one-day moves. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't very often. Yesterday, as I was online doing this podcast, I told you my prediction for the next couple of weeks, and I said I think we're going to have another week to week and a half of good movement, week to week and a half of good movement, and then we're going to see this market roll over. And it's really easy to look at what is happening already this morning and say, oh, I was so wrong. I mean, I've been saying this to myself. You don't have to say this. I've been saying this. Oh, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. We're getting killed. This is so, I couldn't have been more off on what I predicted. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, this is one of those instances, and I don't usually predict something like this, but this is one of those instances where you could see a really ugly sell-off today and almost an immediate buy the dip on some of these stocks that are really getting hit today. And the reason that I say that is because I think there is this irrational fear that gets stoked and magnified it's been happening now for the last year. Every month or two or every few weeks, you get this irrational fear of the valuations and the spending on AI, the valuation of AI companies, the valuation of these chip companies. And almost without exception, every time it happens, people start to buy the dip and it runs back up to bigger than it was before. There's when it comes to the talking heads on TV, I like to listen to a lot of people, and then I still like to form my own opinion. I don't like to put too much weight into what any one individual says, or give, too much credence to what one person gets excited about. But there are a few people that I listen to a little bit closer. I pay attention to what they say, because they do have a tendency to be right far more often than they're wrong, and they have been very successful in what they do. I put this on Discord this morning. One of these people that I kind of sit up and pay attention to a little bit with what he's saying is a younger guy, young compared to me. I think he's probably 20 years younger than me if I had to guess. I don't know for sure what his age is, but Lou Bassanese He's a regular on Fox Business News in the morning. He's a regular guest on Maria Bartiromo's show or on Stuart Varney's show. I believe now I think he has become one of the actual co-hosts on the Big Money Show. Not the Big Money Show. Is it the Big Money Show? Yeah, the Big Money Show that comes on after Stuart Varney, 10 a.m. my time, noon Eastern time. And Lou Bassinet pointed out this morning, I was listening to him a little while before the markets opened today. He pointed out just what I was saying. Every time over these last few months that people have gotten nervous and sort of, in his opinion, overreacted to valuations on these companies, to forward multiples, to the amount of money being, capex expenditures. Almost without exception, it has created a buy the dip opportunity that has proven to be correct. And what I mean by proven to be correct is that if you had bought these dips previously when these companies faltered a little bit, you have come out really, really good on the other side of it in very short order. And he believes that's what's happening here. I think as early as tomorrow or Thursday, you could see a major reversal. Company like AMD that's down 35, $36. And already AMD, this is just the best example because it's getting hit the hardest of any of the companies that I follow closely. Already they've been down as low as 506 a share this morning. But now they're up over 512. And so, they're sitting about halfway in between the highest and the lowest point this morning already, back up to 514 for briefly there. I believe you could see a company like that do such a massive reversal in the next day or two, and potentially after being down, let's say hypothetically they finish right where they're at today, down $38 a share. You could see them up double that by the end of the week. From where they're at right now, you could see them up $60, $70 a share by the end of the week. Now, I don't know that I want to make that kind of prediction that they'll be up that high in that short order. But what I'm saying is it's very possible that they could come roaring back and you could still end up having quite a positive and quite a strong week on the week for some of these companies. So here's my advice for a day like today. I'm still going to be looking at possible trades. I like to send out trades on Monday, but I've got to remind myself that you take what the markets give you, and sometimes they just don't give you things on the days that you want them to. I was looking at Boeing again this morning. I was looking at Airbnb this morning. I think Airbnb is in a pattern right now where over the next couple of weeks, you look at this stock. Let me get the chart up. They've got this little flattening right here for a few days, and they do that for short periods of time once in a while, but more often than not, they are moving up or they're moving down, and these flattening periods are pretty short. I think if we went out 2-3 weeks in time, maybe 4 weeks in time ahead of their earnings report, I think you'll see a move back up here close to 145 or a move down here to 135. That could make an attractive long iron condor if we got the right strike prices where it could easily move outside of the short call strike or outside of the short put strike. And the reason I'm thinking long iron condor is I don't trust picking an outright direction on anything, in spite of what I just said about AMD, which I think they could rebound strong this week. They could also shed another $80 or $100 this week. I think either one could happen. So you got to be really careful in things like that. But I was looking at Boeing. I was looking at Airbnb. I was looking at Micron before their earnings tomorrow afternoon. There's a number of things that I'm looking at, and I will try to put together a trade. But my advice for a day like today is, regardless of what's going on with individual companies in your portfolio, take a deep breath, sit back, and say, you know what? These days happen. I'm not going to get overly excited about it. I'm not going to get overly worked up about it. It is one day. I think you're going to see a turnaround before the end of this week. I'm sticking with my prediction that you're going to see the rest of this week and at least half of next week continue to be more bullish than bearish, in spite of what's going on today. Already this is barely more than half of what futures were pointing down on the NASDAQ right now. So it's still an ugly day. I mean, almost 2% down, but it's not 3%, thank heavens. So be patient today. AMD trading at 516 a share right now. You might, if you're still in that AMD trade and you didn't get out yesterday, um, just sit tight today. I'm down in that trade, obviously, but I'm not real worried about it. I really do think that it's got a good chance of coming back and coming back really strong before the end of this week. So on a day like today, I am kind of just, I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on in the market. I'm not going to watch every single tick of the market. I'm not going to, if I'm glued to my computer screen all day long, it'll drive me nuts, especially on a day like today. I'm going to trust that things will straighten out, kind of take care of themselves. I'm going to look for some trades this morning, but don't be disappointed if it's another day before I send out new trades. I know one of the reasons you join this program is you want to get into as many trades as you can get into. You want them all to be profitable. I want them all to be profitable. I promise you that. But I think a day like today calls for us being really patient, waiting for those good opportunities. I plan on buying this dip. There's a handful of companies that if they start to correct in the next day or two from this sell-off, if they start to turn the corner from this sell-off, there's some companies that I plan on getting into. A couple of bright spots today in the midst of so many things being down. Palantir is up a little bit. Airbnb is up a little bit. There are some companies that we have trending to the upside, not a lot. It's hard for any company to really buck the trend of what's going on. But you got Walmart up, you've got Netflix up a little bit today, Meta, Apple, Amazon. I mentioned Palantir already. IBM actually having a good day, up almost 3%. It's not all bad news. It's not all doom and gloom. I wouldn't worry too much about the AMD trade that we're in. I know it's down right now, but it's I don't think it's going to stay that way. I think we'll still be above $500 a share long enough this week to get us out of that. And already a number of things that were down really, really deep are not down nearly as bad right now. So who knows? Don't be surprised either. I do think there are enough people that want to buy the next dip. Don't be shocked if today is one of those days where the markets, the indexes turn around, where you actually see this deep a drop at the start. And by the end of the day, don't be shocked, especially with the Dow. And you've already seen this go from, 300 plus points down to only being 213 down. Don't be shocked if before the end of the day today, you actually see the Dow positive and the NASDAQ maybe only down a couple hundred points. I know that's kind of a bold prediction. Well, it's not even a prediction. I'm not predicting that will happen. I'm saying don't be shocked if it does. There's that many people kind of anxious to buy this next dip. All right, I'm going to wrap up right there because I don't have much to report on as far as what we've got open. Stay with the AMD trade. Don't give up on that. I am going to spend the next couple of hours looking for some new trades, but don't be shocked if it's another day before we get into some new trades. I'm not going to jump into something that doesn't have a very attractive price on it and something that I don't feel like the strike prices are well inside of the range where it could trade out of. So I'm not going to be in too big a hurry to get into something if I don't really, and I guess another way to say it is I'm not going to push something if I don't really like the prices and really like what I'm seeing. So hang in there. We'll get some new trades this week. Just it may or may not come today. All right. That's all I've got for today. I'm going to wrap up right there. Watch Discord if you can, in case I do send out some new trades. But today's a day where I would avoid sitting in front of the market the entire day. I think you'll drive yourself nuts. All right. I'm going to wrap it up right there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Bye-bye.